Right, welcome everyone to another devlog. So last stream what we got is the ability to like drag a texture around in the texture viewer, zoom out and zoom in. Also this lovely left hand panel here with a bunch of clearly readable text. But yeah, so we've also got these sort of MIP levels that we can sort of select and view here. This has 11 MIPs. We can go and change MIPs apparently. But yeah, we don't see it change. This still needs to actually be implemented on the shader side, I think. But it's a bit annoying having to type in the correct MIP. So these are better off being combo boxes. But also, you can tell here that the texture that we're viewing is viewing a bit wrong. That's because we're not really interpreting the pixels correctly. This is actually stored as a floating point number, so it's a depth value, and we're just reading it in as a packed 4-channel RGB into a 32-bit integer. So it's looking really weird. So we want to have different viewing modes as a drop down as well. So initially I didn't want to add drop downs or like combo boxes to the UI because I thought you might as well have pop up something and have a list there. But for small little things like these, it seems essential. So that's what we're working on today. Is popovers, because we're going to need the ability to hover and get a little tooltip or something like that. That's a popover. But also when we have a combo box, that works like a popover. So essentially what we want to have is the ability to make a little thing pop up, and then you just essentially be able to select from a little list. Obviously, if it can't go off of the end of a screen, right? So yeah, you can't go off the end of a screen like this. So if this is the case, you need to make sure that it's drawn. So if you have your screen and your little combo boxes here, the rectangle needs to be placed up, whereas if the combo box is in the top of the screen, the rectangle needs to be placed below. And then you will have your list there like that, or something like that. Well, you should probably go underneath it like here. But yeah, there's your list. So this is what I'm making this ability to make popovers. So currently we don't really have a support for layering the rendering. So we're going to have to add the ability to layer the rendering, which we'll see in a bit. Right, so here's an example of some code of the current problem we got. So imagine if you have a button, and then we say, hey, when we hover over the button with the mouse, we're going to start a popover, and we're going to put some widgets in here, and then we'll end a popover. And then afterwards we're going to then put a button down, another button down underneath the other button. So if you just to draw this out, you have these two buttons, and then you have this popover, which comes over underneath the first button, and it actually covers the other button completely. Now, in my current system, what will actually happen is this other button will poke out on top of the popover because it's done afterwards. So what was happening is this button is going to do some draw commands, and they will be put onto this draw commands array in a back to front order, and you have to do that in the UI system when you do the rendering. The background will be put down first, then each character saying I am the button, and then the popover is going to do its stuff, and then after the popover's done its stuff, then the button's going to do its stuff underneath, and it will then become on top, right? We don't want that behavior. What we want is this popover to be above, so what we need to add is a sense of layering, where when we start a popover, it will be like, it will call into something where it's going to up the layer count, and it's going to put these draw commands in a different array to the layer where the buttons are on. And then afterwards we will append those to the same array and then send it to the GPU the same way. Because when the GPU gets this array, it will get it in a back to front order, but it's going to read from it from the back of the array to the beginning of the array, so it reads it in a front to back order. So we can early out and do some optimizations there. Right, so this is the internals of the UI before we change anything. So right now we've just got one layer. and we have the draw command words. Draw commands here as an array, and draw words and clip words. Essentially, draw commands has points to a range of words, and the draw commands also contains a range of clip words as well. So this defines the clipping shapes, and these define the drawing shapes, basically. So we're going to split these up into multiple layers now and solve that problem. Alright, so what we've gone and done is we've gone and made this UI draw layer, where we've moved those arrays into here, but also kept this, what was the previous clip command that you'd made, the previous clip shape that you'd drawn, and using it as the clipping shape. And the reason why we keep this per layer is because we want to, when we have done our button and then we go and do the pop over, and so this has its own clipping shape, we don't want it to sort of spill over into the layer down below, so we'll be able to pop that clipping shape back off. So maybe it belongs in here, but we'll see as we write the rest of the code. And we've gone and commented this out as well. So this is state for when we draw the clipping shapes, this is state for when we draw the drawing shapes, and this is state that's shared between the both of them here. So yeah, let's get on and change the code inside. Alright, so I actually missed two important fields. It was the layer index and then our layers to actually be in the UI draw strut. So yeah, they're in there now. Right, so I've added these three functions internally to get the current layer, to increment the current layer and then return the layer above, and then decrement and return the other layer below, or the new current layer. So these are going to be super handy when we do all the draw and clip code. I need to access these layers. Right, so here's our clipping API. It allows us to clip shapes like with circles, axis line bounding boxes and stuff like this. As you can tell, the errors here, it's using the old clip words thing. So we're just gonna, put in this new draw layer thing, get access to the current layer, and then just say layer equal this guy, and then just patch these guys up like this. So I'm just gonna go through now and do that with these guys. Alright, so when we're done with the UI, we actually just take the array of draw commands and the draw words that the commands point to and the clip words that the commands point to, and we just upload those directly to some buffers on the GPU using our GPU buffer upload. And now these arrays are not contiguous in memory because they've got layers, and when they need to be arranged properly so the layers, so one layer goes after the next, we could either do that temporarily in CPU memory, or we just change the API around a bit. So this is the new API, here's the old one. So the new one's just going to take in this draw upload, and these are where it's going to upload the draw commands to. So we just pass this data structure and call this function once, and it will upload it to the GPU, which would be nice. So we're going to implement that now. Alright, so I'm going to change the API a bit again. So what we actually need to do is when we want to upload to the GPU, we need to get the sizes of all these arrays. So there's three fields in here: the draw commands count, draw words count, and clips count. We make sure they don't overflow our GPU buffers, and then we basically call the upload buffer, so we get a nice region of space in the upload staging buffer, and just for the number of words that the UI system has produced. And then we put those pointers into this array copy function, and then the UI system will copy all of the layers into these upload buffers. So this would be a much better API. So here's the API header. So yeah, the array counts just has the counts it's going to output us, and then we will prepare the upload buffers, and then after we've prepared the upload buffers, we get it to copy it into them. Yeah. So let's just go into the internals here. So yeah, this just returns the internal counts that we increment. So we set them to 0 at the beginning of the frame, and then we increment them as and when we put commands into any layer or words into any layer. And then this is the copy function. So we start our cursor off at 0 and we're inserting into the big linear array from loads of smaller arrays. So we go over every layer from the layer at the back, and every time you do a popover or do multiple one or more popovers, you get a layer, right? For each popover basically. So if you have no draw commands, then we assume we're just going to stop here, and then we need to go over all the draw commands and actually do some patching code here. So we need to say like patch the referenced draw word and clip word array ranges. So we're going over all of the, this should say draw commands. I'm glad I'm here. This should go over the draw commands here, and it's going to get a draw command out. Now this draw command references a start index into the words array where its parameters are for drawing a shape. And obviously this was correct when it's inside a single layer, but when you're joining all the layers together into one array, it's not correct. So we need to offset that by the current draw words, so that all the layers that come before it, so it goes past all the layers that come before it basically, since it's going to be appended to the array. So we just go over and essentially recompute the draw command here, and then patch it back in. And again, I got that thing wrong, so I'm glad I'm going over this again. What is this doing? Why is it getting that again? That's wrong. I've already got it here. Yep, that makes sense. So the next one is the clip command. We saw the clip command in the clip words from the start, +8. And again, I've sort of messed something up here because I'm going to change this memory, so this should be called new. Live programming here. Oh yeah. So that'll get patched instead of that. Cool. So this one needs to be the old word start index, not the offsetted one, right? And we're gonna, so 8 plus that is where the clip command is stored. This again is another one of these ranges, and this range instead now goes into the range of clip words. So we need to offset that by the clip words cursor for all of the layers that came before us, and then recompute the command and then patch it back in there. So that's the patching code, and then this is simply just copying all of the draw commands from the layers into one contiguous array for the renderer to just go full ham on. And then we offset the cursor for the next layer to go around again. Okay, so now we've had to obviously change the initialization code where we go over all the layers, and we initialize all the arrays and make sure those get allocated. But also when we start a frame in this immediate mode UI, we now have to go over all the layers, clear all the different arrays, set up the clip words so we can push on an empty clip word, so there's the first thing that gets drawn doesn't have any clipping, if you will. So when we do like popovers, we'll have to explicitly push another shape on basically after this one, but this one means there's no clipping at all. And then we start off saying there is one clip word there at least. Yeah. So if you guys are watching closely, there was a bug and it was causing my GPU to crash. So basically this was calling arrays count, and this one is actually going to say arrays copy, so it actually does the copy, so it wasn't copying into GPU memory. And then also I forgot to set this count here to the arrays count, so later on when we dispatch the compute shaders to do the rendering, this was uninitialized memory and it was just a random number, and it was not happy, or my GPU was not happy. So let's go and test out the layering code now that we've got the game back up and running. As you can see here is the texture viewer, we're able to see the texture again. So let's add in some kind of like test layer and just see what happens. Okay, so before we do any of the popover stuff or combo box stuff, we've got to test out the layering stuff. So you remember that from the last devlog, what we've got is, this is where we did the texture viewer copy texture and we display it. So since the drawing has to be done back to front, right, this is a good test. We're doing the drawing before this one, but here we're incrementing the layer and then decrementing the layer back. So we're going to increment the layer and we're going to say do this custom drawing with these two circles that union together, and then decrement it back and then draw the background, right? So this layer should be on top because we've got this increment and decrement. Now when we run it, we hit F9, see a texture, and here's the layer on top. So as you see, the layering is working, and if we disable it, we should be able to see it behind. So let's get rid of the layer increment and decrement, and let's hit F9, the texture. So you can't see it on top, but if you look behind, and it's there. So there's the layering working, which is pretty sweet. Right, so we managed to get the ability to change the layers and also the renderer to support different layers in for the draw commands. So that's really nice. So we didn't quite get to start on panels or combo boxes today, but we'll be doing that in the next stream. So if you're interested in catching the stream and seeing more of the nitty gritties, it's day 111, and you'll be able to catch that on the VOD channel or in the Twitch backlog for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, if you're interested in catching the streams, they're live Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. And also if you're interested in getting access to the source code, if you support via Twitch or Ko-Fi, you get access to that there. There's also Discord if you come and hang out in the meantime. Yeah, thank you guys, I'll see you in the next one.